My wife Martha shopped in London again. Her absences appear to increase each year. Despite our divorce, she doesn't want one, and I can't afford one. My software firm has developed rapidly in 5 years. Over 10 years, I barely kept our heads above water. When my hardware caught up with my software, everything skyrocketed. 3 major corporations expressed interest. I merely waited for the proper person to grab it. It was worth much more than $10 million currently, basically my stock. 8 years ago, Marcy worked at a Reading legal firm. Pay was beneficial at the moment. Despite being a clerk, she worked long hours and made overnight corporate trips. I was preoccupied with the new program, so I ignored her leaving. Our relationship was okay till then. Despite my poor work ethic, our personal life was excellent, and we had a lot of fun together. After a year in the law firm, we were hardly friends and scarcely close. Not like what was happening. I thought she was simply going through a phase. Both our kids were in high school. They didn't need further aid. Scott was thrilled about the Marines while Bradley was preparing for Penn State. Robert Logan supervised Burke's Legal's Marcy. I met him and his wife at business occasions and thought they were pleasant. Marky came home furious and informed me his wife had shot and murdered Robert. She resigned soon after without saying anything further and never worked again. Our marriage didn't improve. She felt upset and protested. I liked certain things about her, but I cannot. I tried to avoid her, but it was hard. Finding out she was pregnant made everything worse. Having a baby didn't improve matters at home. Our newborn is Glenda, named by Marcy. She adored the girl and fussed over her. It became worse between us. Marcy traveled more as Glenda aged. We relocated with personnel into a new house because the firm was profitable. She took advantage of Marcy's live-in babysitter for Glenda. Never inquired where or why she went. I simply knew there were many charges. I was upset despite generating more money than she could spend. She wouldn't talk to me or tell me what occurred. Of course. Having different rooms didn't help. I couldn't fix anything since I didn't know what went wrong. My patience ran out. Divorce would cost $2 million, and the new business would likely fail. Things was my fault for letting things get this far. I had my own lawyers but couldn't find a solution. Glenda was growing up pretty. I did everything I could to see her. Glenda and I became good friends while Marcy was abroad, despite our frequent separation. Glenda enjoyed the secret we told her. She was doing well in 3rd grade. I attended PTA and staff meetings. Most of the time, Marcy had more essential tasks. Bradley and Scott excelled on. They own. My kids compensated for my poor marriage. I enjoyed my day. Janet Logan waited for me in my office. I was astonished since I assumed she was imprisoned for murdering her spouse. For her age, she looked terrific. She had shoulder-length, silky hair. The color was gray, silver, and black. Her skin was smooth but not soft, and she wore no makeup. She looked amazing with her natural eyebrow shape. She looked fierce and feminine. Janet, your wonderful looks amaze me. Thank you, Grady. I wondered whether you remembered me. I believed no one would remember me after 8 years. Do you want coffee? Black would be good, she suggested. Janet, I'm embarrassed of myself. I understand your situation. I don't want to hurt you. Please correct me if I say or do something incorrect. Grady, I've been in jail for 8 years, so I'm pretty tough about it all. Don't worry about how I feel. By the way, how is Mrs. Stevens? That's not something I want to talk about. Shall we just say that things could be better? I ask. Unfortunately, that's why I came to visit you. I need to discuss Marcy. I'm not rude or furious, but certain things need to be resolved. I sat in the chair next to my desk while holding the coffee cup for her, instead than behind. I wanted her to feel comfortable saying what she had to say. By pressing the voice button, I warned my secretary not to interrupt us. Grady, did you follow the trial? Absolutely not. Marcy told me what occurred, but I wasn't interested. She didn't want to converse while I started the business. Maybe she felt sorry over his passing. I suppose it's more than expected. Lots of this will surprise you, as you seem to have no idea what was going on. I understand why you didn't want to annoy me. Let me tell you some awful things. If it becomes tough, I said. Maybe we should have had scotch instead of coffee, we laughed half-heartedly. On the day I shot Robert, he was planning to leave me and run away with Marcy. Robert had stopped by the house just long enough to present me with divorce papers. Your wife was waiting in the car. I'm sorry my poor husbandship caused your marital problems, I said. Hey Grady Moore. Robert always desired a family, but we never had one. He constantly complained about my wifehood and blamed me. He told me Marcy was pregnant with his kid, and would give him the family he always wanted as he gave me the divorce papers. He insulted and called me names even after I turned around and left. He needed more than a divorce. He kept making me feel worthless. He seemed determined to shout at me. Finally, I gave up. I took the pistol from the chest drawer and discharged it. Not sure if I shot him. Do you mean my daughter Glenda is Robert's? Robert's daughter Glenda isn't Marcy but is certain she is. Could you elaborate? I requested. Checked myself several times. Several testing proved I was healthy. I eventually got Robert's sperm tested and it was negative. Not telling him. Glenda is Robert's mother. The name seems to have been chosen when Marcy discovered she was pregnant. What did Marcy name it? I have no idea where she got it. I think you're right. She claims Glenda Robert's daughter. That clarifies several things. Want more? Coffee? No, but I need to discuss other topics. Do you have time? We're okay, don't worry. That's the nice thing about being the boss when I went to prison. All of the things in the house went into storage. Robert's briefcase was included. I was going through it last week and found this. Janet handed me the original divorce papers that Marcy was going to give to me the day that Robert got shot. The papers were signed, dated, and notarized. Robert and Marcy worked for a law firm, so the terms of the divorce were very precisely spelled out. Is this still good? I requested. Janet chuckled. No idea. I'm not a lawyer. Read paragraph 7. She is giving me full custody of all the kids. She'd be upset if I got Glenda. Even though the boys are gone, Mum would lose it if I got her Angel. Is this available for my attorneys to review? You own it, Brady. Nothing matters to me. I hope you succeed. Janet handed me 2 manila envelopes. The small envelope contains my detective's sexual pictures, which I have no use for. But maybe you will. The large envelope contains my private investigator's investigation results and other interesting papers. You can look over them and decide what's important. Thank you. Sitting, we stared at one another. I was happy she came to visit me. She was amazing. Thanks for visiting. I should return to work. I feel better after tying up these loose ends. You don't have any ex-con jobs, right? My favorite lawyer, Seymour Schlamp, was excited about the 8-year-old divorce papers with no expiration date. He felt like a kid in a candy store. Marcy just wanted specific figures. For $14,000 from the savings and bank accounts. 8 years ago, that was about half of the whole. But now it's almost nothing. Everything else was the same. There was just one catch. It was the 1995 Volvo station car she owned at the time. It was sold 5 years ago. That car had to be found. The company hired Janet Logan to work in the software testing department. The job was pretty basic, but I thought she would be able to handle it. Another benefit was that I could see her often. I wished I knew Janet better because I liked her. Craig and I told Glenda and Marcy about our DNA tests, but not her. The results wouldn't come back for a few weeks, but Seymour needed that time to make sure the divorce forms were complete. I was sure that the test would prove that Glenda was mine. I found the Volvo car at State College with a little help from people I know who work at the DMV. The boy from the frat was glad to give it to me for twice what he paid for it. I had the new title with Marcy's name on it after a week. He told me that the divorce could go through as written as long as nothing was changed in the original request. We couldn't find something bad about it that made us want to change it. Even though it's been 8 years, Marcy's name is still valid because it was certified. The document was sealed by Seymour's notary after I signed it. We just had to wait now. It took a long time. Things didn't get better between me and my wife. Every day, my bond with my daughter and my friendship with Janet Logan got stronger. After about a month, I finally got Janet to agree to meet me for lunch on a day she wasn't working. It was nice and there were no strings attached. I promised her I wouldn't do anything to make the other workers think I answer questions. We filed for divorce and I didn't tell Mary, my loving wife, that it was being handled and that she would soon be told it was final. What the hell is this? She demanded as she threw some official-looking papers on my desk. I think your 8-year-old divorce request was finalist. You blipson. You can't. Since then, everything has changed, and you're insane if you think I'll let you get away with this. What's changed? Dear? We can divorce if your sweetheart dies. I accepted all your terms, so you can't protest. I recommend hiring a lawyer to oppose the divorce. In the meantime, please obtain removal of your gifts from my home. I will happily leave your house and toss away this trash divorce notice. You will pay heavily. Glenda and I are leaving this afternoon, so I'll send someone for my stuff tomorrow. Sorry, but paragraph 7 shows that you handed me complete custody of Glenda. She's mine until you resolve it. Marcy was boiling mad by this point. Her neck muscles were tight, and her forehead veins were bulging out. Every time she spoke, her lips moved. I couldn't hear what she said for a minute. She was so crazy that I was shocked. She finally got the papers and stormed out the door. It was great to have peace and quiet, calm and at ease. She smiled and didn't say anything. The rest of the afternoon was spent withdrawing insurance plans, cell phones, and credit cards. When I called Janet, she agreed to have dinner with Glenda and me that night. She was a friendly shoulder to lean on. Glenda and Janet talked for a long time. It didn't go as planned. As an update, I agreed to find a middle ground but not give up. The meeting started slowly, and most of the time was spent going over Marcy's divorce petition requests. Seymour gave us checks for the agreed-upon amounts, and we sat politely while the official complaints about how unfair the settlements were heard. Because of this, I want to take full care of Glenda Stevens. The judge finally spoke up after being quiet. Do you mean to say that Glenda Stevens is the child of an affair you had with Robert Logan while married to Grady Stevens, Mrs. Stevens? Yes, sir. Robert Logan and I were lovers and soulmates. If you lied about this, you would undoubtedly have a harder difficulty obtaining control after disclosing the truth. If you're telling the truth, we may have to reconsider. The court turned to Seymour. What can I obtain from you? Sitting together, we gazed at each other. Does Grady really want to do this? Let's go. My nice lawyer passed a piece of paper to Marcy's lawyer across the table. This is a story written about 6 weeks before Glenda Stevens was born. The report clearly shows that Robert Logan did not have any sperm. He was unable to have any children, so Mr. Logan and Janet Logan, who is fertile, could never have a child. Marcy turned pale and her eyes grew big. Office. That's not true. That news story isn't true. You're making this up to get Robert's child away from me. As he tried to calm her down, her lawyer said something in her ear. She finally calmed down. The man in charge moved 3 more pieces of paper across the table. Some kind of visiting deal. I agreed to let Marcy have Glenda every other weekend and on 2 holidays she chose. As planned, Marcy chose Glenda for her birthday and Christmas. Marcy stayed quiet for the rest of the meeting. I forgot to say anything to her before going back to work and leaving Seymour to finish the papers. I was shocked at how cheap I got off. I gave Marcy photos of the shots and the report. 2 sources reported that Robert met up with other women at a hotel while seeing Marcy. I tried to get Marcy to explain, but she always said no. I felt like a failure after the breakup. Marcy picked up Glenda every weekend at first, but she started calling and giving reasons why she couldn't come. It got harder to explain why they were calling so often, so she stopped coming altogether. She didn't mind when her mom canceled because Janet and I would go the extra mile to make her happy. We became more like a family as we SP. Amendment to be thrown out. And it was agreed upon. Finally, someone bought my business and we were making a lot of money. Janet is happy because she is pregnant for the first time. We will need Social Security, but it will all be worth it. Finally, life is good.